Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run over me. Run.
Hi, this is Jan Lewis. Welcome to be my guest. Today we have Todd Brown, and he is the instructor and vice chair at the Department of Pharmacy and Health System Sciences at Northeastern University. The initials after your name, tell us what those are now.
Master of Health Professions and a registered pharmacist.
Registered pharmacist. We're going to talk about, hang on to your seat, the high prices of medication, and who better to talk to than somebody who has this degree and knows a lot about pharmaceuticals. Welcome, Todd.
Thank you.
He came down from Burlington today, right?
Yep.
And you're usually up at Northeastern.
Yep.
Yeah. You went to Northeastern also?
I did.
He graduated from Northeastern. What made you want to go into pharmaceutical?
I don't have a good answer for that. I just kind of happened to go into it.
You wanted to do it?
Yep.
Now, the high price of medications. Start us off. Where do we begin?
It's a huge issue, and it's been progressing for a long time.
Yeah.
I think it's coming to a head now. It's getting more attention, both at the state level and at the national level.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and clearly our ability to pay for medications, given the increase in prices, the escalation of prices, is becoming more of an issue, and more people just can't find a way to pay for medication.
I mean, you shouldn't have to choose between your rent, food, and your medicine.
Right.
I've heard that some of the people are either not taking it or cutting it like in half.
Mm-hmm.
That's dangerous, isn't it?
Yes, it is. In a lot of cases,
Being
it
a
is
pharmacist, do you still work in pharmacy?
dangerous. I do.
You do?
Yep.
Do you suspect this with a lot of people?
It's hard to tell. There's a lot of people that don't take their medications as prescribed, and so I'm sure that could be part of it. You know, and I would suggest to people, if they're having issues affording their medication, then they should talk to their pharmacist.
Do you think the pharmacist can work something out?
In many cases, there's things that they can suggest.
Really?
You know, and they might not have an answer in every case, but we can talk about it, but there's lots of things that they can suggest.
I know I have a friend on Mass Health, and the price for something was just outrageous. So the pharmacist at CVS whipped out this, it's kind of cool. She says, I got a card here, and it brings it down a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It was still ridiculous, but it you know, there are little tricks they can have.
Yes.
What, in your opinion, is making it allowed to keep going up? Why? Other than greed.
Well, the short answer, why they keep going up, why the pharmaceutical companies keep raising the price, the short answer is because they can, because we allow them to.
Yeah.
They set the price for their medication, and these are for-profit companies, and so they will say, number one, they have shareholders to report to, and number two, the expense of developing new medications is so expensive that they're looking to get revenue from existing medications in order to pay for the cost of developing the next round of medications.
Is there a way, or do you foresee topping this?
Well, something's got to happen, because clearly we, as a society, greater portion of people are losing their ability to pay for medicines.
Yeah.
You know, so at some point there's going to be so few people to pay for them that, you know, something's got to give. But we would hope that it would change before that.
Right.
There's other things that complicate the picture also.
And what are those?
Well, so if you ask the pharmaceutical company why their price increases, they'll tell you research expenses. They'll tell you, you know, it costs so much. They want to get revenue for the next round of medicines. But they'll also complain about something called pharmacy benefit managers.
What's that?
It's companies that insurers use to maintain the pharmacy benefit. So they're the people that contract with pharmacies, that review claims, that decide what drugs are going to be covered on the plan. Mm-hmm. They decide what the patient's going to pay, what their copayment is, and they also collect rebates from the drug companies. And so the drug companies will say, we're forced to give so many rebates, so much in rebates for our drug in order for it to be covered, we have to raise our price to cover that.
You believe it?
There's a lot of a lot of data that show that the drugs are increased in price because of rebates. The estimate is that pharmaceutical companies give upwards of 30 to 40% rebates in order to get their drug on a formulary. Now the question is, if we eliminated that, and that's a proposal, to not allow rebates to be legal anymore. Right now there's an exemption in the law that allows rebates. The question is, if we didn't allow them anymore, would drug companies lower their prices?
Okay, for people who don't understand, what is the rebate? What is that?
Rebate is amount of money that the drug company will pay the pharmacy benefit manager in order to have the drug covered in the insurance.
Oh, it's like you wash my hand, I'll wash yours.
Right. And the pharmaceutical benefit manager says that they get these rebates and then they pass it on to the insurer to make it less expensive for insurance, but they keep a portion of that.
And they keep it.
And it's not transparent, so we don't know how much they keep.
Ooh.
And the concern is that they're keeping more than they should.
Yeah.
Now, the pharmacy benefit manager will say, if we make this public, it will decrease the amount of rebates we can collect, because then everybody will know, and one company might not want to give as many rebates as another company. But most economists say increased transparency, increased competition makes the price lower, not lack of transparency. And so there's a big push now for these pharmacy benefit managers to make it more transparent and to reduce some of the other things that they do that increase the cost of health care in order to try to gain control over the cost. And there's several proposals floating around that would deal with the price of pharmaceuticals.
What do you feel in your gut would be the best way to go for these people?
For the price of medications?
Well, yeah,
Or for the pharmacy benefit
managers.
managers?
Yeah, both things there, yeah.
Yeah. I don't see a lot of benefit for the pharmacy benefit managers. Like, I don't think the profits that they make are justified. And so I see our ability to control these pharmacy benefit managers as a short-term solution to get some discounts from drugs to make them less expensive while we figure out what we're going to do about the bigger issue, which is the price of drugs.
Yeah, you must have seen when you came in '84, right? You got your pharmaceutical degree. The difference in the prices and everything. It must be humongous when you difference.
Prices have skyrocketed, and the system is complex, convoluted. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's purposely done that way so people don't understand it, and they kind of throw their hands up and say, "I don't know."
Oh yeah, I know. When I've gone to the pharmacy, they screw up at first. I catch them. They'll say, "Oh, $75." I'm like, "No." I said, "You got to check that again. Check the insurance and check this." I don't know how many times I've had to set them straight. Finally, they got it. Finally, but you're standing there, and they're on the computer and back and forth. But I'm like, "No, it does not cost that much. I haven't paid for it that much." But they just. I don't know if it's the kids that are working there now aren't told, or they just, I don't know. What is it, an incomplete system in the computers, or what is it, or is it done on purpose? What is it?
Yeah, no, I don't know.
I don't either.
I mean, they should. What should happen is a pharmacy sends a claim electronically to the pharmacy benefit manager, who then sends the information back and tells the pharmacy how much they're going to get paid and how much to collect from the patient. So I don't know. I have a good answer for you as to
what's got to be really, really. I don't know. Some doctors I have talked with, but when you're the doctor and you know what that patient needs. I'm not talking about something $20,000 less than what I'm giving you. And then the patient gets there. They've got the script. The doctor's called it in, and then you get hit with the first whammy. Oh, well, it has to be, go again through the doctor or reauthorize?
prior approval.
Prior approval, right. Okay, here we go again. Here goes the merry-go-round. Yeah. And now the person is waiting. You could wait. You're going to go under the carpet. They're going to forget all about you sometimes. You've got to keep at it. And then sometimes it still doesn't go through. Then the doctor has to think, what do I, in your pharmacy experience, have you had a lot of doctors call in and say, what can I do? What can I give them?
Yeah, they don't understand a lot of times what's covered and what's not covered, and it's different from insurance to insurance plan. So that the pharmacist has more expertise in that because they deal with it on a daily basis.
Sure.
So often pharmacists can advise physicians on what would be covered in this plan and what's not covered. It is a very complex system, and it's a very expensive system. So.
Yeah. I have a friend who goes all the way up to Canada. Is it that big of a difference? Is it that worth it, the trip?
So one of the proposals to deal with drug pricing is to tie it to prices that are paid in other countries. We pay more in the United States than any country in the world for our drugs.
Why is that?
Part of it's because we don't have a single-payer health plan. Mm-hmm. So in countries that have a single-payer health plan, the plan can dictate what the cost of the medication is.
That sounds pretty good to me.
Some of it is we have deliberately decided to provide more incentives for drug companies to develop these new drugs. Mm-hmm. And so I think we need to achieve a balance of patients being able to afford it and pharmaceutical companies being able to get enough revenue to encourage them to develop new drugs.
Well, right now we were just talking when Todd came in that it looks like Obamacare is going to be monkeyed with a big time, and a lot of people, I'm going to just say, are going to suffer. Okay. By screwing around with Obamacare, is that going to affect the prices? Are they going to go higher?
I don't think that will affect the prices. It's hard to believe that they're going to go higher than they are now.
Well, nobody will be able to get it. I mean,
yeah, right. So we'll just have to wait and see. I think the question is, with Obamacare, what's going to replace it? That's what we don't know.
That's what we don't know. I know now what they're trying to take away. And that's just the beginning. Whether it'll go through, I don't know. But I think a lot of people are going to be really upset, especially a lot of our seniors, fixed income, people with mental health situations. And if you have a prior, a prior health, what do they call that?
Prior condition?
Prior condition. Yeah, I mean, got to watch out.
Yeah, well, they've said that they're not going to allow denial for prior conditions, and it's hard to believe that they're going to get rid of something without having a alternative, and so I think we need more information.
Yeah, we need a lot of, as you said, transparency. We are talking with Todd Brown, MHP, registered pharmacist. He's instructor and vice chair of the Department of Pharmacy and Health System Sciences over at Northeastern. We've been talking about the high prices of medications. Todd, how can people get a hold of you if they have questions?
They can certainly email me at Northeastern, t.brown at northeastern.edu.
And where do you practice pharmacy? Are you in one of your own private pharmacy or one of the bigger ones?
No, I work at a school that has an on-campus pharmacy.
On-campus pharmacy.
Yep.
You know what I've noticed and wondered? I wanted to ask you. Like at UMass, they have their own pharmacy. I guess St. V's does. I'm not sure. Are the prices, do they try to bring them down at like hospital pharmacies for people, or is it the same thing?
If you have insurance, you should pay the same price no matter where you go.
All right.
So if you have insurance that doesn't cover all of your medication, you have a high deductible or something like that, then you should shop around. Or you should talk to your pharmacist that you go to. There's a lot of benefit of staying with one pharmacist so they get to know you and they know your medicine.
Sure.
And the advice that you can get from your pharmacist is probably just as valuable as the medicine you can get from your pharmacist. Yeah. And so I always advise people, talk to their pharmacists if they have concerns about their medication prices. If they're not happy with their pharmacist's response, then find another pharmacist that they're happy with.
You know, if they start cutting, again, I've just heard this, but cutting into Medicare, Medicaid, there's going to be a tsunami of protests. I mean, really, I've never seen it. That's just horrendous. And being a pharmacist and being in that business, how do you tell someone who's coming to your desk there at the pharmacy, like, oops, I mean, that's the price it is, and they can't do anything about it, and the person has to walk away?
Yeah, it's very... pharmacists see this on a daily basis, people trying to afford their medicines. And that's why I would advise people to talk to their pharmacist, because there's several suggestions that a pharmacist could have to help people afford their medicines. I don't have a home run that says in every instance, your medicine is going to get cut in half, but there's lots of options that should be explored if people are having difficulty affording their medications.
The young people we were talking about in Worcester, they have a pharmaceutical school there. I see a lot of the young pharmacists over at UMass, and they're helping out. You can see them walking down the hall with their mentors or whatever. It's great to see them. Do they realize, that the young ones coming up, do they realize what they're coming into? Do you think?
If they're going to pharmacy school, they
know.
should.
Yeah.
And pharmacists do a lot more than what you see in a community pharmacy.
Mm-hmm.
They're in hospitals, they're in industry, they're all over the place. Any place you see drugs, there's usually a pharmacist. And a pharmacist within the healthcare system is the drug expert, and they're often advising physicians and other healthcare professionals on what medications to use.
So they can help the doctor too.
Yes. So the options for pharmacists are much more than what you see at a community pharmacy, although that's also a very important position because people need medication and they need advice from pharmacists.
They're almost like doctors.
Well, the degree now is a doctor of pharmacy degree.
Because I know through the years, if I was given something, I'd get a little paranoid. I'd think, ooh, what are the side effects? It could be 11 o'clock at night. I would pick up the phone and he'd be right there. And I'd say, what do you think? And he's very honest. He said, but I don't think this is going to have whatever. And so that you can really talk to a pharmacist. Call them up. Ask them. When you get someone answering the phone, say, may I speak with the pharmacist, please?
Yes. They're one of the most accessible healthcare professionals by far.
They know a lot. And I'm just wishing that the doctors didn't have to feel like they were almost like the gag system, and then they're handcuffed as to what they can do. What if a doctor has tried the prior authors, all this stuff, and it still doesn't go through, and they can't think of anything else? What does the patient do?
The doctor should be able to communicate to the insurance company when a patient needs something that's not normally covered. If it's a very expensive medication or there's other medications that should be tried first. If the insurance company refuses to cover it and refuses to provide any options, patient can appeal to the state of Massachusetts. There's a group that will evaluate coverage decisions by insurance companies.
How do they reach that?
It's the... I can't remember the name of it.
But you can appeal it.
You can appeal it, yes.
Would the pharmacist know how to, the address maybe?
No, you could talk to the Division of Insurance.
Okay, Division of Insurance.
Yeah, and ask them, tell them you want to appeal something, and there's a separate group that's all they do is listen to appeals.
In Boston?
In Boston, yeah. But it's an online process. You submit your information, they research it, and then they make a decision. And it's designed to resolve conflicts between patients and insurers around coverage.
I didn't know they had that. How many people even know or go that far?
I'm not sure.
We get the word out because, I mean, in the meantime, I'm concerned about the person. They're waiting for the appeal, and they're waiting and they're waiting. In the meantime, what do they get to take?
Some insurance, it depends if it's a new medication or an old medication, but once again, if it's critical that they have something immediately, then their pharmacists and doctors should talk, and they should figure something out.
Yeah, if you're in the hospital, and your doctor wants you to have this, and suddenly you find out, I would think that the pharmacist at the hospital or whatever, and the doctor, you get on the back of the insurance company and say, "What are you doing?" This is life and death. It really is. For a lot of people. A lot of people, if they cut anything on a lot of stuff, they're not going to be able to afford their diabetic medications. Isn't that, Todd, isn't that cost a lot, the diabetic?
It's been a big issue in the news recently, the cost of insulin. And the diabetic community has been very vocal about the increase in cost of insulin. And to their credit, there's been some changes. One of the main companies has agreed to develop or to produce a generic insulin for about half the price of the current insulin.
But is it as good?
It's exactly the same thing.
Okay, it's exactly.
Yeah. And so that's a perfect example of if people are vocal enough, things can change. It's gotten a lot of attention, but it really is pretty similar to other drugs. It hasn't increased that much more. It's just these people have been vocal and have put enough pressure on the pharmaceutical companies to change things. But we certainly need a more comprehensive system that addresses this issue. One of the proposals is to tie the cost of medications in the United States to the cost that is paid in other well-developed countries. And I think that has some merit because why should we pay more than other similar countries for a medication? And so that's one of the proposals floating around. Another one is that companies that have very expensive medications or medications that increase dramatically in price, that they would have to do extra reporting and justify those costs. And so the issue of pharmaceutical costs is getting more attention. I saw on television last night, AARP has these series of ads now addressing Congress to deal with the pharmaceutical pricing issue. And so it's gaining more attention, and I would bet that, within the next legislative session that something happens.
How long is a legislative session?
2 years.
Oh, oh my gosh.
But I would think probably before the next elections that both parties would probably have enough incentive to want to be able to tell their voters that they've done something.
A lot of people, I've talked with about this, and they'll say, I'll bet that suit making the decision on this, if this happened in his or her family, boy, things might change a little bit. You think that they're just kind of cold, they don't see what's going on? Or they don't want to see.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's actually, most of the time, it's not the insurer, it's the pharmacy benefit manager. Oh. And people don't really understand that these are the people that are involved in making most of the decisions around medication and drug coverage.
I had no idea there was a middle guy. A pharmacy, what is he called again?
Pharmacy benefit manager.
How long have those been in existence?
Probably about 30 years.
Oh, long before you even came in.
Yeah. They first existed to help process claims. Yeah. And the way they made their money is they got an administrative fee for doing so. Yeah. But as our healthcare system got more automated and more complex, they took on more responsibility, and now they maintain the pharmacy networks, they pay the claims, they collect rebates from pharmaceutical companies, they decide co-pays for patients, they decide formulary issues. But the issue is that there's a lack of transparency and there's a conflict of interest. So these pharmaceutical benefit managers, they're the only ones that have certain data. So they'll do stuff like they'll pay the pharmacy one price and then they'll charge the insurer a higher price for the same prescription.
Good night.
They'll charge the patient a higher price than they pay the pharmacy for the prescription and keep the difference. They'll collect rebates from the pharmaceutical company, and they won't pass all of them back to the insurer. So these companies, it's a very consolidated market. There's 3 pharmacy benefit managers that control 80% of the private market. They're very big companies, Fortune 10 companies, so we're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue. And their profits are not consistent with the rest of the healthcare industry. And so I think that this is a great opportunity to rein them in, get some money to start paying for healthcare costs while we figure out this drug pricing issue, which is going to be more of a longer term.
Is there a group of pharmacists, Todd, that are getting together to actually go in, to Boston or Washington or wherever? Are you guys forming something to go?
Pharmacists have been doing that for some time now. Okay. They're on the front lines, they see the havoc that these pharmacy benefit managers create, denying people medication, raising the prices, and so, they're very vocal about it. And it is getting attention now. And so hopefully that will be something that's addressed with the drug pricing issue.
It has to be very hard, personally, I would think, being a pharmacist and knowing, okay, I just filled the prescription for Mrs. Smith, and I know she hasn't got $100 to pay for it. She hasn't even got $25 to pay for it. She's coming in, and she thinks she's going to pick it up. How do you address that?
It's very challenging, and
she starts crying. I mean, really.
It can be very challenging, and their pharmacists can have some solutions, have some suggestions in those situations, and so that's why I want to recommend to everybody, if they have concerns about their medication costs, talk to their pharmacist. You know, there's options. There's
The appeal.
there's the discount cards that you had
The
mentioned
discount card.
that, you know, will pay for part of your copay.
Yeah.
There's drug assistance program from the pharmaceutical company. Sometimes there's alternatives, so you might get prescribed a medication, but there might be a less expensive alternative. Sometimes for some medications, the pharmaceutical company prices the medication the same price no matter what the strength is. So in some instances it might pay for a patient to take a half a tablet instead of a whole tablet.
Yeah.
So there's lots of things that the pharmacist can consider and can look at, and that's why patients should talk to their pharmacist.
And you can appeal.
You can appeal.
I've seen many times on television that, what is this with AstraZeneca? Now, they offer, if your pill is from AstraZeneca, that pharmaceutical, they're saying that if you're having trouble paying for this, you can connect with us?
Yeah, so all of the major brand name pharmaceutical companies have patient assistance programs.
Really?
Yeah, so if your income falls within a certain category, they will provide discounts. They will
Significant
discounts.
Okay,
Yes.
that's good to know. So that if let's say you're getting your medication, check, and it's very expensive, right? Check where it was the brand. I mean, your pharmacist can tell you the brand, and then connect with that. How does a person, a lay person, connect with that person who's going to help them?
You just look up the drug company or just type in the name of the drug.
Okay.
And the website will come up, and one of the options, if they have it, will be a patient copay card or copay assistance or patient assistant. It'll be right there.
Okay, so it's not totally hopeless, guys. You
It's
can
not.
really, we've learned a lot. From Todd, in this half hour, I have learned more than I ever knew about I never knew there was a middleman, with the pharmacy and the costs. I didn't know that you could appeal it. I didn't know that you could also call, we were just talking about it, the brand of your pill, that company, right? And they can assist you. And it's
If it's a brand name medication.
If it's a brand name, and it's serious, they will seriously assist you. It's not just one of those things they toss out. They'll seriously.
No.
Great.
And the copay assistance cards provide a lot of support for drugs that are very expensive. So you might have a $500 copay for a certain medication.
Forget it.
And these cards can reduce it to $20, $30, $50. So
That is amazing.
Once again, there's lots of things, and people should talk to their pharmacist.
Right, the pharmacist knows about why. I was going to say something, but I don't remember what it was. We have been talking with Todd Brown from Northeastern University about the high costs of your prescription drugs, and we've learned a lot. If they want to ask you further, maybe they missed it again, how can they reach you?
My email address is t.brown@northeastern.edu.
And you'd welcome anybody who really needed to ask you. Because there was a lot to digest here. I mean, just in a half an hour, like I said.
More than happy to answer, but they should first talk to their pharmacist.
And always talk with your pharmacist. I didn't know the pharmacists had all these tools up their sleeve. They never told me, except for that. I heard about that card. This is terrific. Todd, thanks so much for being with us.
My pleasure.
Thank you. And we'll see you next time. I'll be my guest.